The Dogon tribe never had a military, police, or a jail system because they had zero crime. They would have disagreements, and then an elder would negotiate the terms of an agreement between the two sides, and that was the end of it. And here we got militaries, we got an Air Force, we got an Army, we got Marines, we got submarines and ballistic missiles, intercontinental ballistic missiles, and nuclear warheads, and we got jails and prisons and all that. And we calling ourselves civilized. These people lived in a place during a golden age with no military, no police, no jails, and knew more about astrophysics than we knew, living in total peace and harmony. We don't know nothing. We're still launching chemical propelled rockets into space. We know nothing. There's people living on the moon. There's already a breakaway civilization there. We've been there for a very long time. People were on Mars, and a few whistleblowers have come forward and said that the people on Mars look like the ancient Egyptians. Governments are so advanced now. They used to be 50 years ahead of us of what we know exists. Now they're about 300 years ahead of us. In the last 10 years, over 200 NASA scientists dead. Strangely, it's kind of horrifying, and I think that the people who may want to come out are afraid to die. Every single cell in your body is at 0.07 millivolts of electricity, and you have 35 billion cells. Multiply that, and you're at 2.65 or so trillion volts of electricity in your one body. You're a walking nuclear explosion. This is where the Qigong energy comes from. This is where Reiki healing energy comes from. It's extracted directly from the cells in your body. It's not mysticism, it ain't magic. No, it's real. When you understand how to tap into the energy meridians in your body and extract the energy directly from the cells in your body and focus them, you now have healing powers. In order to manifest, you need to be in a specific state of consciousness. And that's what the Hemi-Sync technique gets you into. The CIA got involved with this. This was so good, the CIA said, you know what? We need to learn how this can be used for weaponization. So the Central Intelligence Agency, they had interest in this, and they wanted to find out how it had the ability to expand people's minds. They wanted to understand psychic phenomena and altered states of consciousness to gain intel. They felt they can weaponize it, which they did in the MK Ultra program. How powerful this must actually be. When you listen to binaural beats, your brain activity matches the frequency set by the frequency of the beat. So you can create a focused beam of thought that has a mission. The mission is for it to actually manifest specifically and exactly what you're trying to bring into your reality tunnel. The third eye, there's crystal in there. Crystals have an amazing power. When you put pressure on a crystal, it releases energy. When you put the pressure of the spinal fluid on the pineal gland, it sparks. When it sparks, it releases DMT. You can have your own DMT. You don't have to take it from a plant, and you can trigger the same exact response through a breathwork meditation. It allows you to reach higher levels of dimensions and consciousness. When you tap into understanding how the third eye works, the average person is like a person standing in the ocean with the wave crashing over them. And when the wave crashes, that's when they realize, oh, this moment just happened. But when you're operating from your third eye, you're surfing on the wave. So you're closer to real-time information, because scientists discovered that there's a 7 to 8 second delay in between the time that something happens and the time that we realize it happens. So everything that we see going on around us is 7 to 8 seconds delayed, unless you're moving from the third eye, the pineal gland. When you tap into that and you bring awareness to it, your intuition skyrockets, and intuition turns you into a surfer versus a person that's standing in the ocean waiting for the wave to crash over them. In the modern day Bible, Enlil is Yahweh. Enlil is the one, if you read the Epic of Gilgamesh and a lot of these other ancient tablets, that's killing off humans by the thousands and tens of thousands because they're just making too much noise. We're talking about a very evil person, an evil person that ruled over this planet for quite some time. When Enlil, who's known as Yahweh, comes back and sees humans building a tower into the heavens in one of these cities, duplicating what the Anunnaki had built, he gets pissed off because he realizes, oh man, Enki got me. These people are too smart. So he destroys the tower. And he says, my seed shall not abide in man forever. His years shall be 120. And what's the maximum lifespan of a human being in the most pristine condition according to Harvard? 120 years. Then the next thing he did was he separated humans and put them in different places around the planet, just like the tablets say. And then he confused the languages so that we couldn't communicate and collaborate anymore, which is why there's all these different crazy languages. And then on top of that, he put a brand. Whoever ruled over an area, brand your people. We know that those are your people. Brand your people. We know those are your people. And look how it's worked. Look how these invisible lines we have on this planet till this very day are still here. If I go to Mexico, I'm an alien. If they come to America, they're an alien.
Yeah, we're still blowing each other up because of fucking religious ideologies.
It's crazy. So the Great Pyramid is not what people think. It's an interlocking structure. That means each individual stone is like a piece of a puzzle. Like you buy a puzzle and put the pieces together.
Yeah.
Every piece is different. Same thing with the Great Pyramid. There's no two stones alike. Every stone is like a fingerprint, which means it was created specifically for the exact location. Somebody created an interlocking puzzle of 2 million pieces. There is no cookie cutter. You can't cookie cutter a pyramid.
So this proves that science and technology was extremely advanced. Mathematics was extremely advanced in ways that we really can't even fathom.
We have no idea or concept. When you research the Enuma Elish, you discover the full creation of this solar system. There was a planet named Tiamat. We had Mercury, Venus, and then you had Tiamat. Earth itself is a side effect of a collision that happened millions of years ago that brought, the land, also life, and even some of these ancient artifacts that we discover 400 and 500 million years down in these mines, those were created when Earth was part of Tiamat. So as you continue to dig through these texts, you discover approximately around 450,000 years ago, they came here, but they began to create a breakaway civilization, not utilizing that existing hominid as a slave or a worker person at all, not even interacting with them. It doesn't happen until approximately 200,000 years ago in the Epic of Atrahasis. If you look at Derinkuyu, located in Turkey, you discover they have a place underground that can house up to 30,000 people. This underground city was literally built using amazing technology, and there's no evidence of any collapse, even though the structure goes down as many as 12 stories. There were even areas in there for worship and even for livestock. In this underground city, there are 14,000 ventilation shafts, which lead air to the deepest of levels. According to the local indigenous people, the ant people helped build this structure and took them down there. Down there for what? To hide from what? Was it a geological disaster or was it a war? You see similar stories happening in Egypt, where there are depictions of ant people in Egypt on ancient artifacts, and the story is the same. These ant people at some time in the distant past came and took most of the civilization underground. We see the story again duplicated in the Americas with the Hopi tribe, where they themselves have carved on rock and stone a depiction of these same ant people taking them underground to avoid some type of catastrophe. I talked to an actual homegrown archaeologist from Mexico on some of my tours, and they teach in their university now that the Mayans built nothing. The Aztecs built nothing, that they inherited what was already there. When they arrived there, everything was already in place. I took that information and started digging even deeper. The dynastic Egyptians, they built nothing. They built some of the newer temples like Luxor, but you can see those temples they look huge, but the stones are cut and stacked and glued together. They're not really one single piece of megalithic stone like in the ancient times. The knowledge of how to build these structures was lost across time. And the further back you go in time, the more megalithic and the more you see single stones cut into these masterpieces, versus in more modern, the dynastic era, you see multiple stones cut up and chopped up and then put together like glue. Taking blocks out of the quarry, floating them down the Nile with logs, using elephants to pull them out and drag them across the desert into the location, and then from there, utilizing water chambers to float the blocks into place. Come on, man. And I see people posting that theory for years and years. They keep posting that theory, posting the video of the water and the blocks floating around and just magically sliding into place. We have one big problem with not only the mud ramp theory, but even with this floating block theory. We have a major problem, and the major problem is this. Every stone in the all 2 million blocks is 100% unique. It's time to wake up. I've been watching presidents since Nixon when I was a kid. It's flip-flop back and forth from Republican to Democrat. Yet, inflation has consistently gone up, prices of food have consistently gone up, and if you don't believe that, well, when I was a teenager and I got my first car, gas was 69 cents a gallon, and now it's $5 a gallon. A gallon of milk used to cost 35 cents, when I was a kid. Now a gallon of milk is about $4 or $4.50. You tell me, are we gonna blame this on any particular individual, any particular presidency? Or are we gonna come to terms and realize that no matter who gets in there, your cost of living, your inflation, the overall debt of the company, and I do mean company, not country, it's a company. The company called the United States, it's a corporation, is gonna continue to go up, 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 up. And the only thing you can do is really figure out for yourself, how can you navigate this economic and financial matrix? How can you stop becoming a sheep? It's time to stand up and take the same energy that you put into this foolishness called the polytrickster system and put that energy into your own life. Heaven and hell is a state of mind. Hell was added to the Bible by the Roman Catholic Church. Lake of fire was added to the Bible in the 1600s, Roman Catholic Church. The rapture was added to the Bible in 1835 by William James Darby, okay? Added to the Bible. Then later it was a cliff note originally, a suggestion that he came up with on his own. But when some pastors saw how much power it had over the people, it later made it into the canonized text. And now you got people running around talking about the Lord is coming to rapture me and take me back on this cloud and all this crazy stuff. No, ma'am. No, sir. That's just fabricated information that you didn't know about. Doesn't exist. Heaven is here and hell is here. They're both in the same location. And what is your job and mission on this earth, according to what I read in the Bible, from what I understand to be factual information? Your mission is to bring heaven to earth. Your mission is to create a divine outlook on what you think life is supposed to be and what it should look like and how people should love one another and how we should be all prosperous and how we can utilize our knowledge and wisdom and combine that with our technology and everything else that we've learned. People are walking around with supercomputers in their pockets now. Information travels instantaneously, just as the Hopi said would happen. They predicted this a long time ago, that in the future, they said, information will be connected on a web, a World Wide Web, and it will travel to and fro instantaneously. We're in that era. We've lived to see that prophecy fulfilled. This is actually the best time to be alive. We're living in the information age. If you want to gain knowledge, if you want to gain wisdom and understanding, it's all available to you. We are advancing at an incredibly fast rate. In 100 years, we went from a horse, buggy, and carriage to putting remote control cars on Mars. We did this in 100 years. Now imagine a civilization that is a million years ahead of us. I predicted Trump would win this election, and the reason why is because Kamala is not in the bloodline. Every president of the United States, except for Van Buren, was related to John Lackland, a former king of England that signed the Magna Carta. All these presidents are related by blood, and people just still don't get it. You still just don't get it. It's a big club, and you ain't in it. Instead of sitting back, hoping and wishing and begging for one of these polytrickster saviors to come and rescue me, I've decided that I'm going to take charge. I proclaim myself as a president, not of a nation, but of my life, my family, and my community. Each of us holds immense power to shape our reality. Every one of us has the ability to lead by example, to be kind, to be strong, and to find solutions instead of excuses. They don't want you empowered. They want you to rely on them. We have the true power on this planet. There are 8 billion of us. Begin to organize and collaborate within your communities. Stop relying on the system to spoon feed you. Let us be the presidents of our own lives. I've been poor. I grew up in the ghetto.
Right.
I had holes in my shoes, 2 pairs of pants. So I came up, in a very poor situation. So I can relate to the poor person. I can relate to the person that's in the hood in the ghetto. I had to sell my toys door to door to get money for the ice cream truck when I was 7. And when I did that, I realized I was going to save myself. I said to myself out loud, oh, it's me that's going to save me. If I think about something and act on it, I'm going to manifest my own reality.
There's pyramids everywhere, right? Not just Egypt?
All over the world. Everywhere, all over the world, no matter where you go. Why? Because a master architect laid down the blueprint, and we find this in the Emerald Tablets, where Thoth tells his crew that once we finish rebuilding the land of Chem, I want you to spread out and duplicate what we did here. So that's the foundation tablet that tells you, hey, spread out and go out and duplicate what happened here. So this is why you see the same structures all over the world.
Are there any in the U.S., you guys think?
Oh yeah, there's some structures in the U.S. In Michigan, where you're from.
Really? In Michigan?
Yeah, there's a hinge.
Stonehenge, right?
There's a Stonehenge underneath the
Lake Michigan.
Lake Michigan. Yeah.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, and guess what's carved into the stone? The pillars, like mastodons and animals and stuff. So this is really ancient. It's like the Michigan hinge. I believe that there's many levels to reality, and this could be just one universe of Googles of universes that exist. And I believe that they're all in some way, shape, or form experiments. And what is the ultimate experiment of this particular universe? The universe as a whole is a mind. Human beings and cats and dogs and grass and trees and everything else. We're just a sensory perception for this mind. Just by living our natural, normal, everyday life, we're collecting data and streaming it back to the source. Why collect the data? What is the purpose? The purpose is to understand what it's like to live in multiple dimensions. I believe that the true full experiment is to see how long will it take for these multiple species throughout the entire universe to figure out how to bring heaven to earth, how to become the light and sustain the light and evade the darkness. Christopher Columbus wrote in his captain's log that he saw a bright light come up out of the ocean and it lit up everything and then it flew off into space. Now, wow. Captains don't just write these things in their log. This is like one of the most important things of being a captain is your log.
Yeah.
So when they write stuff like that down, you got to pay attention to it.
And that was hundreds of years ago, so they've probably been around for a minute.
1400s.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
They've probably been here before humans, right?
Oh, yeah. We're the new kids on the block. We just arrived, man. People think we're the end-all, be-all, the pinnacle of civilization, the pinnacle of, hominid in the universe. They just found over 200 pyramids buried in the sands of Giza with ground-penetrating radar from a satellite. Antarctica, they're everywhere. You go into the Atlantic Ocean, the center of the Bermuda Triangle, there's a pyramid down there, still emitting some type of exotic energy from the apex. That's what is the cause for all of these disappearances and anomalies and time anomalies and everything else. We're talking about an interconnected grid of pyramids that also duplicated as portals or wormholes or something that connected different places on Earth. People would go from one place to another almost instantaneously, kind of like teleportation. All this stuff was happening in the ancient past. Think of where we came from in 100 years. A horse, buggy, and carriage, and now we have Voyager 1 in interstellar space. Remote control cars on other planets like rovers, right, on Mars. And now that's only 100 years. Imagine another civilization that's 1 million years ahead of us. Now we have AI, we've got AGI coming on the horizon, which is going to be sentient, conscious AI. We have robotics and and all this. A million years from now, what will it be? I mean, we can't even fathom the level that it will be. We would look like gods to another civilization on a less advanced planet. Where you get the word horoscope. It comes from Horus, from ancient Egypt. When I started to look into science and gravitational fields, I realized there is some truth to astrology. Looked at some scientific studies where they took frogs' eggs into space and they began to grow into frogs. They were realizing something incredible, that the magnetic field of the Earth and the pull of the moon were having an effect on whether they were male or female. They began to realize that magnetic fields and gravitational fields alter the genes inside of an embryo. Now, when you look at star charts and alignments, if you're born under a specific alignment on a specific day, that field that's being created, which spans across billions of light years, is going to have a minute effect on your genes and your DNA while you're in the gestation period. But those slight energetic modifications become part of your personality matrix. Energy is consistently recycling. So when we talk about could souls and be coming back, well, all atoms that were created in the beginning of the first part of this explosion of existence into this universe are the same atoms that are here right now. There's no new matter that exists. It's just consistently transforming and molding and melding into different forms of energy. But it's the same exact energy that was here from the beginning of time. My avatar body and your avatar body were parts of stars, were parts of rocks, parts of plants, parts of different beings, or combinations are limitless because the entire universe is imbued with divine energy. Energy and souls and spirits have come back and reincarnated, not only on this planet, but on other planets, other places. You don't know how old somebody truly is. A person that's 80 years old, they could be a newborn baby spiritually. This could be their first time here. And a kid, the piano prodigy you're talking about, a 6-year-old that could play Mozart, he could be ancient. This could be his 1,000th, 2,000th time coming back. There was an experiment done by a scientist where he took a flask. He took a glass flask and he sterilized it with heat and then he sealed it. He hermetically sealed it. That thing should be sterile, right? There's nothing inside of this jar. He let it sit on the shelf for a few weeks. He comes back. He says, let me open this up and look at it under an electron microscope. What does he see inside this jar? Microscopic, fully formed life forms inside this glass on a microscopic level. So what does that mean? It means that life is emanating into the third dimension 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, nonstop, fully formed. In other words, I and you and everyone else who's watching this is not a result of an amoeba turning into a fish and then walking up on land and then turning into a monkey and then walking out of a tree and turning into a human being.
Yeah.
Didn't happen. We're in an operating system. We're living inside of a programmed matrix. Literally. There's a creation that's being emanated here that's coming through the flower of life symbol. That flower of life is at every Planck unit of space-time that exists throughout the entire universe. And where the circles intersect and cross, through that is the womb of creation, where everything emanates into the third dimension. The evidence that we're living in a creation is all around us. What I'm attempting to explain to you in this book, Fractal Holographic Universe, is what is the method used to create this reality? Because I believe that we're living in a holographic matrix. If you look at a hologram, when you go into the smallest part of the hologram, you'll see the entire image within the smallest piece. Now, you go to the universe. As we zoom into the nature of reality itself, we begin to see the whole in the smallest piece as well. The holograms that we've created technologically are nothing but a fractal of exactly what we're living in. Anything that mankind creates or builds, it's only a fractal of something that already exists throughout the entire known universe. It's only what's implanted or encoded through epigenetic memories and whatever's programmed into our DNA. We then reproduce that on the outside of ourselves and say, hey, we came up with a great invention. We just came up with a great idea. No, it already exists throughout the known universe. We were just able to rediscover it in a fractalized form. And when you begin to understand this, you begin to understand how this entire universe was built. What brought about the creation of the Electoral College? It has deep, dark, current ties still to this day to slavery in America. And it developed out of a system that considered slaves 3/5 of a human. It's called the 3/5 compromise. Let's dig deep into this. The 3/5 compromise, United States History, Britannica.com. The 3/5 compromise agreement between delegates from the northern and southern states at the United States Constitutional Convention in 1787 said that each slave would be 3/5 of the population. So that means 5 slaves would only be worth 3. Think about that for a minute, okay? So that 3/5 of the enslaved population will be counted for determining direct taxation and representation in the House of Representatives. And if you remember your history correctly, in 1787, black people in America were still enslaved. Even though we had a constitutional convention, even though we had a House of Representatives, so forth and so on. What's crazy is that a lot of people don't realize that before you had the United States of America, you had the United States of Congress. People say, you know what, we never landed on the moon. Yeah, we did land on the moon.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah. But what they did was they showed you a combination of real moon footage and not real moon footage. And why would they do something like that? Because we went to the moon, but we lied about it. Because the moon was a reconnaissance mission. We're going to send these guys up there because we know there's stuff up there because they did several low lunar orbit missions and they saw what was there. We need to collect some of this debris and bring it back to figure out what the heck is that and who was up there and when. And so a lot of the moon's mission was really to covertly get this stuff and bring it back. And so we did go to the moon. Where are the Anunnaki and why haven't they returned? Some of them never left. There was a war. During this situation in the tablets, some of these beings said they were going to forego and they were going to leave and they left. And some of them stayed. They're still around us today because I believe their offspring are still here walking amongst us, and you wouldn't be able to detect them or differentiate them from a normal person. The ones that did go, when will they return? In the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, some of the oldest texts on the earth, Thoth the Atlantean says that far in the future an enemy will come from deep space, and he says that the person that is wise enough to raise his ship from underneath the Sphinx will be able to defeat them with ease. So according to him, far in the future, in some deep future time, there is going to be some type of situation we might face in space. Maybe it's the Anunnaki returning to take claim for this planet. Even the depiction of Jesus was switched over to the face that became the global popular face. That was actually Caesar Borgia, who was actually one of the sons of an actual pope and killed his own brother to try to take his place. This guy was just an evil, brutal, killing ruler. His father commissioned the artist to paint his image as the image of Jesus, and that image still propagates the planet till this very day. So the image that a lot of people are praying to is not the Jesus that they think it is, but actually a natural born killer.
That's true, because I mean it was just propaganda. That was the propaganda of the day, were these master works of paintings and you know, frescoes and things like that. That was the propaganda of the day. That was the art of, that's all the only way they could get messages like this out there. So because of this one artist, you have these images. But generally speaking, if you go back far enough, I mean, Jesus wasn't a white guy with blue eyes. That doesn't make it. He just wasn't, right?
Yeah, he wasn't a white guy with blue eyes. If you read the description, he had bronze feet and he had tight curly hair. Whatever their hearts desire, they will achieve it. That made it into the Bible. And so he destroys the tower, just like it says in the Bible. And then he says, my seed shall not abide in man forever. His year shall be 120. That also made it into the biblical text. So you see where it's getting copied from. Older ancient texts. The Bible was written from 100 AD to 900 AD. This text is thousands of years prior. And so he then decides to confuse the languages and move people around to different regions of the planet so that we couldn't collaborate.
Because if we can't collaborate, we can do all the things that they can do.
Exactly.
And we can challenge their power.
Exactly. This is where the genetic modification came in. That 120 statement is powerful because at Harvard University, they just discovered that the lifespan of a human being maxes out at about 120 years.
Yeah.
And that's under the most pristine conditions, no poison.
That's organ failure and all these other things. Not
Yeah.
counting cancer, outside sources.
Exactly.
But how long can your organs really live for? Yeah.
So that's where the genetic, now the scientists said, look, chromosome number 2, something happened to humans. It was taken out and fused together. Instead of having 48, we got 46. Why is that? I can take a skin cell from you. I can put it into a culture, turn that skin cell into a stem cell. Then I can culture that and turn that stem cell into a group of stem cells. Then I can take that group of stem cells and I can put it into an artificial womb and I can actually grow a synthetic embryo. They've been successfully doing this all around the world in laboratories. They claim that they're killing this synthetic embryo when it gets to a certain age, but who's really overseeing all these synthetic embryos? I doubt that they're all being killed. Now they can grow that synthetic embryo to any age because of the Avatar project at DARPA and because of the 2045 project. They've developed the ability to transfer consciousness into another body. They've been working on this for a long time. Where did they get this information? The Emerald Tablets. The Emerald Tablets talked about this 36,000 years ago. If you take a really close look at this, you'll see that this is a reptilian or a representation of a reptilian type of a hominid that's actually breastfeeding a reptilian baby. That's really incredible, guys, because as I've stated before, in ancient times, people didn't have time to make up stories like this. They only etched or created statues or etched into stone what they actually saw, learned, or knew about. You would have to believe that this is something that they actually saw. They were discovered in Iraq back in 1919. This male's got an object in his hand. You clearly see we're looking at something that's kind of reptilianish. They obviously are, to me, what I would consider to be sentient beings. I don't think that these are just wild animals. I believe that this culture was already here. These beings were here when the Anunnaki or the Atlanteans actually arrived, and may have not only interacted with the existing hominids on this planet, but may have even made it with them. When you hear people talk about reptilians, well, they really did exist, and they were here, guys. They were real. Eventually, we'll come to understand the true, amazing reality of our ancient past and our potential progenitors or ancient ancestors. When you look at the Anunnaki and you discover that they were multiracial people, they all look different. The crew that took to Chem with them, they were all different looking people. Even one person had married a woman from another planet, according to these texts, not according to me. When he said, go around the planet and duplicate what we did here. Yeah. So now I go, you and I were already in Africa, right? You go to Europe, you go over to Mesoamerica, and you are ruling over people. Now, what does a farmer do right now to have cows? They brand the cow. So in case my cow wanders off, you know, that's Farmer Jim's cow. We got to get it back to him.
So everybody made their people look like them.
That's right.
So they knew these are our property.
Let us make man in our image.
Whoa.
I believe my hypothesis is that we are genetically branded people for the people that we were ruled over by.
Whoa. So what color do we all start as?
No one knows. When you talk about these Anunnaki texts, it describes them. There's only one reference in the Sumerian tablets that references the people that took the brunt of a bomb that got dropped in ancient times, and they call them the black-faced people. And it said that the evil wind took them over and their hair fell out and their nails fell off and their eyes were bleeding. It's like radiation sickness. That's the only reference we actually have of the way anybody really looks, other than the hair. They talk about hair in the Epic of Gilgamesh. They talk about locks, and what does that mean, locks like you just have long hair, or does it mean dreadlocks? You don't really know. Stop falling for divide and conquer tactics, you know, left wing, right wing, and all these things. Right. And Baptist and versus Pentecostal, all these different things. It's all separation. Learning how to love everyone, learning how to see everyone as a brother and a sister,
Love it.
instead of a potential enemy or competitor.
Yep.
Understanding that abundance exists throughout the entire universe, everywhere, at all times, and the lack of abundance mindsets create division and separation. And understanding and seeing that we are all just one, experiencing life in different perspectives. And how can we collaborate? How can we coordinate? How can we organize together to create a better world, even a better universe? When you begin to operate in that different frequency, the frequency of love, then all of a sudden you begin to attract, you begin to manifest the reality as you begin to attract more and more people that gravitate towards you with the same frequency, and all of a sudden you get this mass collective on the frequency, and then you have this shift, this spontaneous shift. We just have to get to that magic number of people that are resonating at the same frequency, and the whole world will shift. When you look at the Anunnaki and you discover that they were multiracial people, they all look different. The crew that Thoth took to Chem with him, they were all different looking people. Even one person had married a woman from another planet, according to these texts, not according to me. When he said, go around the planet and duplicate what we did here.
Yeah.
So now I go, you and I, we're already in Africa, right? You go to Europe, you go over to Mesoamerica, and you are ruling over people. Now, what does a farmer do right now to have cows? They brand the cow. So in case my cow wanders off, oh, that's Farmer Jim's cow. We got to get it back to him.
So everybody made their people look like them.
That's
so
right.
they knew these are our property.
Let us make man in our image.
Whoa.
I believe my hypothesis is that we are genetically branded people for the people that we were ruled over by.
Whoa. So what color do we all start as?
No one knows. When you talk about these Anunnaki texts, it describes them. There's only one reference in the Sumerian tablets that references the people that took the brunt of a bomb that got dropped in ancient times, and they call them the black-faced people. And it said that the evil wind took them over, and their hair fell out, and their nails fell off, and their eyes were bleeding. It's like radiation sickness. That's the only reference we actually have of the way anybody really looks, other than the hair. They talk about hair in the Epic of Gilgamesh. They talk about locks, and what does that mean? Locks like you just have long hair, or does it mean dreadlocks? We don't really know. Stop falling for divide and conquer tactics. Left wing, right wing, and all these things.
Right.
And Baptist and versus Pentecostal, all these different things. It's all separation. Learning how to love everyone, learning how to see everyone as a brother and a sister,
Love it.
instead of a potential enemy or competitor.
Yep.
Understanding that abundance exists throughout the entire universe, everywhere, at all times, and the lack of abundance mindsets create division and separation. And understanding and seeing that we are all just one, experiencing life in different perspectives. And how can we collaborate? How can we coordinate? How can we organize together to create a better world, even a better universe? When you begin to operate in that different frequency, the frequency of love, then all of a sudden you begin to attract, you begin to manifest the reality as you begin to attract more and more people that gravitate towards you with the same frequency, and all of a sudden you get this mass collective on the frequency, and then you have this shift, this spontaneous shift. We just have to get to that magic number of people that are resonating at the same frequency, and the whole world will shift. Anything that's ever had a Catholic Church, they bow down to the Black Pope. The Black Pope has the ultimate power still to this very day. Still okays and makes decisions on a lot of things going on in the world, even economic decisions as well. I think I posted about 5 years ago the oath of the super Jesuit Black Pope on my Facebook page. It's crazy. This is the actual oath from the Vatican that this Black Pope reads to get initiated into his priesthood for that role that he'll play. It's super dark.
This is public knowledge?
Yeah, it's in your face. Nobody even knows it's there, so they don't go look it up. But I took it right from the Vatican's website. This is taught by the ancients, the many world meditation. You sit quietly in a quiet room and you see your thoughts in your mind as being inside of a ball within your mind. And then you see a hand reaching in and taking the thoughts out. So you get to a very low amount of thoughts. When you get to a very low amount of thoughts, you envision whatever your view is of what a multiverse would look like. Everyone maybe has a different viewpoint of what it is. You envision connecting to yourself, to multiple versions of yourself consciously, until you find the one that has succeeded in them. And then you begin to talk to yourself and ask yourself for actual advice. And you bring that knowledge back here into this reality. So you go to the multidimensional platform and get that information, and you bring it back to the third dimensional reality here in this universe, and you act on it.
By Compendium of the Emerald Tablets by Billy Carson.